The Faith and Fishing podcast is sponsored by 413 Lure Company. 413 Lure Company is a family-owned and operated business that puts Christ first and does things the right way. Using really high-quality components, they make some really awesome spinnerbaits, buzzbaits, bladed swim jigs, and more in some really sweet color combinations. Check them out on Facebook to see what they can do and place your order today. Welcome to the Faith and Fishing podcast, where you get to hear all kinds of fishermen tell their stories and share their faith. I'm your host, Cam Steele. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing podcast. I'm your host Cam, and this week we get to talk to someone who has fulfilled a lifelong dream of mine. Before we jump into that though, just a quick reminder to rate and share the episodes to help others find the podcast. Since I started fishing, one thing that has always been in the back of my mind is to break a state or world record while fishing. This week, we get to talk to an IGFA world record holder. With a red breast sunfish weighing in at over 2 pounds, Alphonso Jackson broke the previous record by a wide margin. And this week, he's going to be on the show talking about that record and talking about his faith. Alphonso, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad nice to be here.
Absolutely. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit about you and what it's like being an IGFA world record holder.
Okay. Well, my name is Alphonso Jackson. I'm from a little town in North Carolina called Maxton. And I'm a very avid fisherman. Been fishing all my life, thanks to my daddy for teaching me. And I'm father of 3 girls that love to fish. And setting that world record last year I really surprised myself. I really didn't think I had it in me, but I really did. And the best part about it is that everything that I caught it on, I caught it on what they call a little dock runner. You get $17 at Walmart, a homemade cork out of a wine bottle, and a Victor's hook, panfish hook.
That's awesome, man. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about what it is that you caught that got you the world record. It was a red breast sunfish, correct?
Correct. It was a red breast. My family and I had been fishing earlier that day at a local pond that's maybe 5 minutes down the road. We wasn't catching anything. I told myself, well, let's go down here to the Lumber River where my daddy taught me how to fish, and I'm going to show y'all some tricks down there with some crickets. Because I use a cricket with no sinker on it, so it slow falls and looks natural. You might have to throw him a couple of times because sometimes his wings don't get wet because there's no sinker on him. And so we got down there, I caught 2, maybe a pound and a half, and then when I caught that third one, he was just so much bigger than the rest. Something just told me that he was a record, but I didn't know it at the time. But it turned out to be a state record and a world record.
Absolutely. And so, for those who may not know, including myself, what all goes into getting it certified?
Okay, what you have to do is to get a fish certified in the state of North Carolina, you have to go find the nearest certified set of scales that you can find. All grocery stores have them, but the thing is if they'll let you use them or not. So
right.
I couldn't find nobody to let me use none, so I called the North Carolina Wildlife, and they directed me to some certified scales. So when I went and had him weighed, he weighed 2 pounds 1 ounce. I know that beat the state record here, so I went on ahead and called back and let them know what it weighed, and they sent a biologist out to make sure it wasn't a red-eared sunfish or no other kind of fish, and make sure it was exactly a red breast, and it was. So I broke the state record, and then one of my buddies called me, and he was like, man, you broke the world record too. I was like, did it? He was like, yeah, look it up. So I looked it up and seen that the world record wasn't up to 1 pound 12 ounce. So I applied for that, and it turned out to be the world record.
All right, that is awesome. So you've touched on it a little bit already. If you would give us some backstory and tell us how you got into fishing.
Okay. Well, my earliest account of fishing is, I've been fishing all my life. I can't even remember when I started. But, my daddy was an avid fisherman around here where he's locally known at. Everybody calls him the the Bill Dance around here.
All right.
So, yeah, so he got me started with the gateway drug fish is what I call it. Pan fishing, catching little browns and little stuff like that. And I just progressed and steady fished all my life.
All right. And so are you mainly a bass fisherman now?
Yes, I do bass fish quite a bit. I bass fish. I try to be a multi-species fisherman. I try to fish for a little bit of everything. That way I can teach my kids how to fish for a little bit of everything.
Absolutely. All right, man. So let's get into it. If you would, in a nutshell, tell us what you believe in.
What I believe in? Well, what I believe in, you know, if God hadn't put me at the right place at the right time, I wouldn't have caught that fish. You know, and I definitely believe that he guided me that day, because I had been down for about a week, had been feeling low and just down and out, and we just decided to get out and go fishing. And I believe that he didn't let me catch nothing at the first place, so I wouldn't stay there, that he would send me somewhere else where I could catch some. And I believe in catch and release, and I'm just an average guy, just an average father, just trying to show his kids the right way and how to live off the land.
Absolutely. So, if you would, go ahead and go into a little bit more detail on how you know whenever God is guiding you, and how do you know that that's what you need to follow?
Well, you know, just I think I heard the question correctly. I think just instinct, really, just instinct. I do a lot of instinct, because your gut, if you listen to your gut a lot of times, it'll lead you in the right direction. A lot of times we don't listen and we end up straying, but your gut, if it tells you something, I learned how to listen to it and follow it a lot. And I've been pretty successful with that in life, not only fishing, just other stuff, at just following my gut.
Okay, absolutely. And if you would you tell us the story of how you came to believe in God?
Okay. Well, my whole family, my granddaddy was a preacher. He was a pastor of a church before he got killed, and I was raised in the church. And you know, as you hear him say, the seed was planted a long time ago, and the seed just flourished and grew. You know, I don't always be on the right path, but he lines me up, puts me back on the right path if I just pray the Lord to listen to him and follow his direction. Sometimes it beats in the blind, but it always comes out for the best. It might not be right then when I want it, but eventually down the road it ends up popping up for me.
Absolutely.
So my mother and all my family, we're real God-oriented people, you know, because my mother didn't raise it in me. We can't do nothing without him. And so I believe that, and that's the reason why, if he puts it in my gut, I try to listen. Because if I don't, it don't turn out the way it's supposed to.
I hear you. So, is there a particular time or thing that taught you to really trust your gut?
Okay. Yeah. Back in 96, my first daughter was born December the 17th of 96. My wife, she told me, she said, don't go nowhere. I got a bad feeling, and something told me not to go nowhere. I wasn't a Christian then, and when she told me, she said, don't go. You might not make it back home. So I went and hung out with some friends and was drinking and stuff, and along the way back, I got in a terrible car accident. And, you know, the doctor told my mother and my wife, they said, he ain't going to make me, go ahead and prepare for him to to not make it. Get the funeral home you want to, already on standby. And during that time, while I was out in a coma, like, something appeared to me, just like I was just laying there, actually awake, talking to somebody. Somebody appeared to me. They walked up beside me and told me, and just laid their hands on me and said, "Everything will be all right." They said, "We know you sit and talk like you're dying, but you're not. You got a job here to do, and it's not over yet. But you got to follow my direction." And ever since then, I've been a true believer, because that just didn't come from nowhere.
Absolutely. So, what would you say it means to you to have faith?
For me to have faith is it's the love and the joy and the hope that I see when we all come together and do something good. That's me. It ain't all about me. It's like doing for my fellow man just because he is my fellow man. Not that I want something in return. Just helping him to be helped. And and when you do that, good things come back to you. I can remember the old timers in my life saying, when you do something and wasn't asking up in return, they said the Lord's going to bless you. And sure enough, them blessings come. And blessings do come.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to start transitioning back towards fishing just a little bit here. Are there any specific times out on the water you can think of that have affected your faith in any way?
Yes, it has. As a matter of fact, about a week ago, I was fishing at the local pond here. And I got a bad habit of not looking where I'm going, just stomping down through there. And I just happened to be standing there fishing. Just happened to look down between my legs, and there's about a 3-foot water moccasin between my legs. He didn't bite me. Why? Because God didn't want him to bite. He stopped him from biting. And then just as soon as I stepped back a foot, he raised up and looked around and eased on back off in the water. That wasn't nothing but God that stopped him from biting me. Because I could have, actually me and him did look in each other's eyes. That's how close we were. And so that just lets me know that he still got his hands on me, and his protection is still there with me. Because only thing you got to do is get your attention. Just take his hands off of you for a second, lay him back on there. Everything in the world will turn upside down. And that's what keeps me believing in my faith. Things that happen in my life that I see where I could have been gone, could have been dead, could have been paralyzed, could have been a lot of things. But luckily, I'm not. I might not be in the best of health, but I'm healthy, and I'm glad that I'm still alive.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so this next question has become really my favorite question of the whole interview. I've gotten so many great answers from it. What fishing story or memory means the most to you?
Okay, the one that means the most to me is the last time me and my father and my kids got to go fishing before he had a stroke. So that was the best time that me and him had on the water that I can remember. Because he was so happy to have his grandchildren fishing. And he was so happy me and him was fishing together. And, that was just a joyous time. And then right after that, he had a stroke and he can't fish anymore. But me and him still gets out and rides to the water, and we sit and we talk about the times we had on the water. But that was my most memorable time. Because he laughed harder than he had ever laughed before. Because usually when he went fishing, it was all quiet. It was straight business. No talking, no laughing, no nothing.
Right.
I'm leaving you at home. Because you're carrying the fish. I think that was my most memorable time right there. I'll never forget that. I'm sitting out fishing and grinning in my head. Casting that pole.
For sure. That's awesome. So whenever you're out fishing with somebody, be it a family member or a fishing buddy, What is your conversation typically centered around?
Well, a lot of times when me and my buddies are out there fishing, it'll vary. A lot of times we start out talking about fishing, then we end up talking about what's going on in each other's lives and trying to help one another. If they got a problem, let's talk. Let's go out in the water and talk about it. They'll be talking about somebody breaking up. They'll be talking about the job ain't going right. Sometimes when you're on the water, you don't have to deal with life and life. You just be out there and be doing it. That's what me and those guys do. If we all fishing together, somebody brings up something, we all try to put our hands in it. If we all fish, nobody won't bring up nothing. It's just a regular fishing day. But we try to fish with one another, let one another know that you always got a friend that you can count on and turn to. Because somebody once told me, even the strong needs help sometimes. That's
Absolutely.
like me and my wife, sometimes we just get out there. That's what we do. We just go out there and we just talk about anything. Because sometimes in the water, it'll make you think about things in a different light. Especially when you hear the birds chirping and singing their pretty songs, and you sit there and you down and out, and all of a sudden, you talked about it with people there, and then the next thing you know, you're just so at ease. Well, sometimes for me, it's more for me to talk to people about problems I'm having. But if we're on the water, that's my family. If they're fishing with me, they're probably family. Even if we just met, they're probably family. And there's no judgment. We just talk about what we talk about, and we leave it there on the water.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, you mentioned being a father. What life advice do you wish you had been able to start off with, and that you want your kids to be able to take on with them?
Oh, the advice. I wish I could have said it out there. And one of the most me this year was advice I wish I could have got when I was 20, because I picked a very difficult trade of work. But my one advice that somebody gave me that I wish I could have got early was, whatever job you get when you're young, will determine what age you can retire when you get old. And my kids, what I want for them is always remember, education, knowledge is power. Without education, you can't go nowhere in this world. You're on strict smart, but now you got to have a be smart to go with it. And I try to teach them that when they're making their money, invest it wisely. And that way, when you get older, you'll be set. Because my mom and daddy could have gave me an acre of land to photo with or something, and I was coming along, yeah, it might would have been a little bit different for me. But I wouldn't want nothing in my life to change because of that, because if it would, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I would be somebody totally different that I probably wouldn't know.
For sure. And to flip it around a little bit, what fishing advice do you wish you had been able to start off with, and that you want your kids to be able to take on with them?
Okay. Fishing advice is to me, hook set. My biggest problem when I first started was hook set. I couldn't set the hook. Because I would have too much slack in my line. I would reel down until I felt the fish. And that's the advice I give them when they're fishing now. If you're bass fishing, worm fishing, don't snap until you feel the fish or you see the line jumping. Then you tighten up a little bit and you feel it. Then it's time to set the hook. That was my biggest thing.
Absolutely. So you mentioned being a multi-species guy. Is there a particular fish that sits at the top of your bucket list that you want to be able to catch?
I really want to go in the mountains and catch some trout. I've never caught trout. That's one fish that's like, matter of fact, I think he's number one on my list. And then I'm going to move to some saltwater fish, like some snook and drum. Because I don't really anchor but an hour away from the coast, but I don't hardly fish at the coast.
I hear you. And for those trout up in the mountains, you gonna do fly fishing, or you gonna catch them on conventional gear?
I would love to fly fish. I would love to learn to fly fish because if I learn that skill, it can help me down here too with popping bugs for big brim at night in the evening time. Learning how to fly fish.
Absolutely, that's something that I've kind of been pushing off, and I know how deeply I dove into the other fishing gear. I know if I start something new, I'm going to dive just as deep into that too.
That's right.
So, is there a particular fishing spot that sits at the top of your bucket list?
Yes. As a matter of fact, there's two that sits at number one. That's Lake Gunnerville and Lake Okeechobee. There's two lakes that I want to fish. I want to, because they produce big bass. I want to fish those two lakes.
For sure, Lake Okeechobee sits at the top of mine too.
Because I've been invited to ICAST this year, so hopefully while I'm down there around Orlando, I might can get to break away and sneak and try to get to Lake Okeechobee.
Absolutely, that's awesome, man. All right, so we're going to move into a segment here. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's called What's Your Favorite? And I'm going to ask you your favorites in a few different categories. All right, so do you have a favorite scripture?
Yes, John 3:16.
Absolutely. Is there a particular thing about it, or?
Well, yeah, it is. For us, for people to be sinless, and for Him to give His only Son just so we can live, that's something incredible to me. Because I love my kids, and I don't know if I could do that.
For sure. Is there a particular Bible story that's your favorite?
I want to say the story of Job.
Okay.
And because my great uncle he used to tell us this story all the time. And that's the reason why I say that story, because it sticks out. So that's our nighttime story there before we went to bed.
All right. So, what's your favorite fish to catch?
Panfish, redbreast.
Absolutely. And what's your favorite fish to fish for?
Believe it or not, bass.
I hear you. Is there something special about it?
Well, bass. When I'm bass fishing, this might sound crazy, but when I'm bass fishing, it feels like, even though my dad is not physically there, he's there with me spiritually. Me and him still fishing together. It might be just as one, but we're fishing together. That's the reason I love bass fishing.
Absolutely, that's awesome. And what's your favorite fish to eat?
Ooh, I don't eat fish.
Okay. Absolutely.
I love to catch them, but I don't eat them.
I hear you. You're the first one on the podcast that doesn't so far. So, all right. So, but while we're on the subject of food, what's your favorite fish and snack?
Cheese and crackers. That's my favorite fish and snack right there. That even beats the jerky.
All right, I hear you. All right, so, and I'm not going to ask for any GPS coordinates or give away any secret spots or anything, but what's your favorite body of water to fish on?
The Lumber River.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know there's still a lot of fishing in the river. A lot of people got away from fishing the rivers and the creeks and dream. But I'm still a little bit old school. I still go to those places. Like a lot of people out there. Well, you have to know the river and know what time to go in certain parts of the river to catch certain fish. Like I got one certain spot near, it ain't giving away nothing near Waco, North Carolina that I go to. I only go to that certain spot when the Robinsons bite. And then I got another part of that river that I go to Atlanta, North Carolina, that I fish right after the bass spawn. So, I know that river pretty good, so that's the reason why I think that's my favorite body of water right there.
Absolutely, you can't beat that local knowledge.
That's right.
All right, and last but not least, what's your favorite time of year to fish?
Believe it or not, I'm gonna say fall. I think I catch more fish in the fall than I do any other time of the year.
All right. Absolutely. All right, so we're going to start wrapping things up here. If you would, you've already touched on ICAST a little bit, but let us know what's coming up for you.
I'll tell you what's coming up for me next is I'll be in ICAST in July, and I got a couple of tournaments to fish here in North Carolina in April, and I got a few in May. I got a fish for autism in May and a fish for cancer, and I think it's April the 11th. And I got to get, I'm going to have a presentation where they're going to be giving me, I'm supposed to be on the news, but I don't know exactly what day, to give me certificates and stuff for catching a state and world record fish. That's what I got planned like for the next 3 or 4 months here.
All right, absolutely. And do you have any sponsors or supporters that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yes. You're the first person to ask me this. I'm so glad. Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Victor Hooks, Titan Chunk, Honey Hole Fish, the Fishing 365, and Swim Bait. That's the guys that sponsored me before I had ever even caught the fish.
Awesome. All right. And if our listeners want to get in touch with you or follow you on social media, how do they find you?
Okay, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, you can find me at the North Carolina Fishing. That's what I am on all 3 of them.
All right. Well, Alphonso, thank you so much for coming on the show. Had a blast, and I wish you all the best, man.
All right. Thank you, Cam. Thank you for having me, and I really do appreciate this, man.
Thanks again to Alphonso for coming on the show and talking about Jesus, family, and breaking records with us. If you want to find out more about Alphonso, check him out on Facebook and Instagram at the North Carolina Fisherman. Be sure to tune in next week when Alphonso will join us again, along with another great fisherman, Mr. Lonnie Ellerby, to discuss racism in our country and where we can go from here to start healing our communities. Again, be sure to rate and review the show and give us a share. Thanks again for listening. Take care, and God bless. Thanks for listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. If you like this episode, please give it a rating, a review, and make sure to subscribe on whatever app you're listening to so you never miss an episode. You can follow the podcast on social media at facebook.com/faithandfishingpodcast and Instagram at faithandfishingpod. Special thanks and a big shout out to our show sponsor, 413 Lure Company, to Jonathan Enthalancy for helping me write, play, and record the music for the show, and to Tyler Worrell, the graphic designer behind our amazing logo. If you have any questions about faith, I encourage you to contact a pastor in your community. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, get out there and catch some fish, and I will catch you on the next episode.